So welcome again. Thank you for joining us. This webinar series was developed and is being developed by staff, being presented by staff from the Evaluation Center at the University of Colorado, Denver. And this work is being funded by the State Tobacco Education Prevention Program at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. And just a note that STEPP doesn't require you to create and conduct your own survey, but the purpose of these webinars is really to build you and your organization's capacity in evaluation. So there are two presenters today. My name is Erica Clark, and I'm an evaluation specialist at the Evaluation Center. And I've been here since last November. Before that, I worked as a public health evaluator for about 9 years. And my colleague is Peter, and he'll say hello now too.
Hi, I'm Peter Rumbach from the Evaluation Center, and I'm an evaluation specialist, and I've been here for about 2 years. And I have to apologize to Erica that her picture is not in this slide as it should be. You probably saw it in the last webinar, so apologies.
So this is webinar number 3 and the final in a series of webinars on the use of survey data in data collection. The TA content was developed based on a needs assessment of STEPP grantees. And webinars will be presented on the live dates shown and archived for viewing at other times. And if you missed the previous webinars, you can still participate today and watch recordings of the webinars on our website, www.steppeval.org. The next series will be on qualitative data and take place in September. And we'll send information with the opportunity to register for these in early September. And following today's webinar, we'll conduct a short feedback survey to help improve these future webinars. And this will include understanding which days of the week are best for you to participate. So be sure to fill that out. Today's goals. The webinar has 3 intended outcomes. Prepare survey results for analysis, select appropriate methods to analyze quantitative results, and display survey results effectively. The next webinar series will describe how to analyze your qualitative results. These are your open-ended responses.
So one of the first steps is to begin to build a codebook based on your survey blueprint. Please see webinar number 1 in the series for more on survey blueprints. So this is where you can record the actual survey question numbers that align with each of your categories, and also put in your analysis plan for each of those categories and items. And there will be more on the analysis plan later in the webinar. So quantify your options. You may remember our first webinar in which we developed a survey to gather information about cookies. Use a blank copy of your survey to record your plan to quantify any text option. This would be for a paper survey. If you have an NA option, code is 0 and do not include an NA analysis unless reporting NA is important to your analysis. Some survey and analysis software will automatically factor out these options. Remember to use this plan in the same direction for all items. That is, 1 should equal the lowest or negative on the scale, and 5 should equal the highest or positive on your scale. This will be true for all items throughout your survey. For paper surveys, first number each survey received. This becomes your, quote, case number. This is useful if you need to go back to a paper survey to check a response because of a data entry error. You can use Excel as a data entry spreadsheet. Enter case number in the first column and enter responses from each case in the rows corresponding to the survey item. For open responses, type in the full text of the response verbatim. If you are using an online survey software, this step will be done for you. You will just need to download your survey responses in whatever format you plan to use. Next is to create dummy variables. For items where multiple responses are allowed, it's useful to create a dummy variable for each possible option. You should record a 1 for each item that was checked by a respondent. Items that were not checked, record a 0. If a respondent did not answer the item at all, that means there were no values for any of the possibilities. Enter a set value for missing data. It is common to use 99 or 999, depending on how many cases you have. You want the missing value to be more than the number of cases, such that it does not coincide with the case number. In this example, case number 1 liked chocolate chip and peanut butter, while case number 2 liked all 4 types of cookies. Case number 5 did not answer the item at all, and you see the missing data. We used the 9-9 for that. Next is to clean and check your data. There are several ways to deal with a situation where a survey respondent checks more than one answer. If it is numeric, you can consistently take the lower response. Take the higher response, or you can record an average of the two. The important part is to be consistent across all survey responses in whichever method you choose. If it is a multiple choice response, like in this example, you can invalidate the response and treat it as missing data or entering the 9-9 or 9-9-9 I mentioned. Some other steps to clean data. Check for values falling outside of an expected range. For example, if you have an item with 5 choices, strongly disagree to strongly agree, and these have been converted to values 1 through 5, you should not see any values larger than 5 in your responses for that item. If you find values outside this range, you can check the specific case to correct the data entry mistake.
For missing data, it's best to leave the field blank during data entry unless you have more sophisticated software where you can identify a code for missing data that will remove the responses from any statistical analysis. Suspicious answer patterns, another common problem. Sometimes these are referred to as Christmas tree or straight lining. These type of responses to checkbox or radio button questions follow a very clear pattern, and they don't reflect thoughtful, accurate answers. Sometimes your review of a survey will show it was clearly a prank and not a thoughtful response. For example, these might be wildly inconsistent or contradictory responses or inappropriate comments in open-ended responses. In these cases, you can remove the entire survey response from your data set. You can check for typos like data entry of 33 instead of 3 by calculating frequencies and looking for ones that are unreasonable or outside the range of responses that you expect. If you find a typo, be sure to check your paper survey to confirm what the actual response should be. And it's important to record your decisions like these in your codebook so that you handle these problems consistently. This is the formula to calculate the response rate for your survey. Response rates vary widely, and it's hard to say what is a good response rate. We posted an article about response rates on our website, which you can explore further. Response rates can be high, like 70%, when the respondent population is motivated and the survey is well executed. Response rates can fall below 2% when the respondent population is less targeted, when contact information is unreliable, or whether there's less incentive or less motivation to respond. Instead, the better question to ask is, does the sample reflect the population? Did you receive responses from all the demographic groups in your community? Choosing quantitative analysis methods. Analyzing your survey data is the next step. We'll focus today on the quantitative results. Our next webinar in September will include ways to analyze qualitative data. Quantitative data analysis is helpful in evaluation because it provides quantifiable and easy to understand results. Quantitative data can be analyzed in a variety of different ways, and we'll review the most common quantitative analysis procedures that are used to analyze survey data. The first thing you should do with your data is tabulate your results for the different variables in your data set. This process will give you a comprehensible picture of what your data looks like and assist you in identifying patterns. The best ways to do this are by constructing frequency and percent distributions. In this example, the number of responses and percentage of the total were calculated and put in this table format. About half, 51% of respondents reported that they followed the recipe exactly. Excel can be used to calculate frequencies and percentages easily. If you have a one-direction anchored scale on a survey question, you can calculate averages in addition to these frequencies and percentages. This is calculated by multiplying the number of responses by each rating and then dividing by the total number of responses. In this example, respondents rated how confident they were baking 3 dozen cookies. Survey respondents had an average confidence of 3.11 on the scale ranging from 0, having no confidence, to 5, extremely confident. Disaggregating by groups. Another way to obtain the meaning of your survey results is to sort the results by groups of respondents or subpopulations. If you have collected demographic information like age group, or ethnicity, that you think may impact the results, you can sort your results in Excel by these demographic variables. You can then rerun your analyses for each group. More sophisticated data analysis software will allow you to select cases to do so.
Another analysis approach is to calculate subscales if you have them in your instrument. You can analyze your results by calculating these if needed or suggested by authors of an existing survey. A subscale is a combination of multiple items within a single larger category. This provides results at the level of the larger categories you identified in your survey blueprint. You can also calculate composite results. Within items, you can collapse rating categories for more meaningful results. Subscales can be calculated using collapsed category results too. Again, the goal is to provide more summary and more meaning of the results. In this example, we've collapsed strongly disagree and disagree, and collapsed strongly agree and agree to make the statement at the bottom of the screen. 77% of Pleasantville survey respondents agreed or strongly agreed they use best cookie making practices. So when do you need more advanced statistics? While we can't present a full course in statistics in this webinar, there are many resources that will help you decide if you need more advanced statistics and if your data meets the assumptions for these analyses. Statistical tests are often used to understand differences between groups or within groups and to understand causation between different phenomena. Each type of statistical test has a set of assumptions. Think about all the board games you have played throughout your life. Each of these games has a set of rules that you play by in order to play at all. This is the same as statistical tests. Each test has its own set of assumptions you must meet before using the test. We've posted a cheat sheet on the resources section of our website that provides further detail on choosing the appropriate statistical test. Additionally, statistical analyses can be done with Excel or other software such as SPSS or R. So to measure differences, these are attempts to demonstrate differences between groups on a dependent variable. So for our example, you might want to understand differences in cookie making practices of groups of people based on a certain demographic characteristic, such as geographic location or age. If you want to measure differences among your respondent groups, you may consider the following tests. Non-parametric tests generally have fewer assumptions than parametric tests and can be used when basic assumptions are not met for parametric tests. Parametric tests generally have more assumptions that need to be met in order to be used. Researchers often opt for parametric tests when they want to generalize the results to a larger population. Measuring associations usually involves understanding how two or more variables covary. That is, if a person has a higher value on one variable, they're also likely to have a higher or lower value on another variable. Or associations are how one or more variables enable one to predict another variable. So for example, maybe we want to investigate whether respondents are more likely to report a higher opinion of cookies. They also report good cookie making practices. Again, here are some possible tests that you might use. So once you've determined how you will analyze each question or group of questions, complete your codebook. Your codebook should be usable even by individuals who were not involved in creating it. This means you should thoroughly complete this step so that someone who's unfamiliar with this data could also conduct the analysis if necessary.
Displaying your results. Once you've completed your analysis, you'll need to decide how to display your results. Again, the goal is to increase understanding. Charts can be easily produced in Excel, and we'll share just a few examples of different data charts. Presenting data effectively in charts and graphs has become a popular niche in research and is referred to as data visualization. We have a resource on data visualization on the website. Bar graphs are useful to display survey results when you have categories of responses. These are the frequencies of responses that we calculated on an earlier slide. When creating charts in Excel, the default is to set the scale to reflect the range of data, which results in truncating charts, and this can be misleading. It's better to show the full range possible, here on the y-axis showing 100% for the most accurate display. This chart is an example of using good data visualization such that the horizontal lines are removed for a cleaner presentation and the data labels are placed below the x-axis. Line graphs are appropriate to use when depicting changes over time. In this example, on the x-axis, there are 3 time points that this survey question was asked: before, at the end of the class, and a follow-up time point 6 months after the class was completed. The frequency of respondents of who reported that they were very confident is displayed at each time point. So, in this fake example, participants in the cookie class increased their confidence to bake cookies over time. This is a dot chart used to display the average cookie baking confidence for different age groups. The youngest group, ages 10 to 20, felt the least confident about their cookie baking compared to the older age groups. And we apologize that we have an error in this slide stating X value where the square should be 2.45 where it falls on the scale on the bottom, and the circle should say 3.65, and the triangle 3.89 representing the oldest age group.
And this is maybe a good lesson that if you do put your charts into PowerPoint and then you're to present them, make sure that between the different versions, it may eliminate the values. So this is a case where that actually happened to us. So you can check that before you go to present.
So in summary, after this webinar, you should now be able to prepare survey results for analysis, select appropriate methods to analyze quantitative survey results, and some tips on how to display survey results effectively.
And so again, just to refer everyone to the website, steppeval.org, you can find further resources for survey and survey development, management, analysis, and reporting. And so for this webinar, there are quite a few resources that we added. There's a guide for using Excel for analyzing survey results if you don't have another software. There is a guide for basic assumptions of statistical tests, the cheat sheet on what statistic to use. There's a data visualization checklist, and there's also Pell Institute's tool for analyzing quantitative data. Additionally, on the website, you can find a community forum where you can post any questions that you didn't get answered here, and we'll be monitoring that and answering those questions, as well as the previous webinar recordings and presentation slides will be posted.
So the next webinar series will be on qualitative data, and those will be at a date to be determined in September. And we'll send further information on the specific times and registration for this a little later in the year. Please email me if you have any questions in the meantime.
And you can also put any questions that you have from the second survey management webinar that we watched earlier or from this one today in the chat box now. We'll wait a few minutes to see if anyone has any questions. So it looks like we might have a question. All right, so it looks like maybe you're thinking of your questions and you may ask them later. So we just invite you to visit the website and post your questions there on the community forum, or you can also email us as well. Yeah, we'll be sending a feedback survey regarding the second and third webinars that we presented today. And you'll get that electronically. So please just keep an eye out for that. And if you have a moment, fill that out. It would really help us to improve our future webinars that we'll be offering. Thanks again for participating.